Huh. Evening. This should make for an interesting video. So, who have we got with us? First of all, can we thank you for joining us over on our new page? Jimmy's actually sent me a fairly normal message there. Cheers, Jim. Steph, how are you? Vicky, how are you? Just bear with me 1 second. Somebody's just trying to join while we're on there. I don't even know how to do that, to be honest, while I'm on there. I can join them later, can't I? So, how's everybody's evening going? Mine's going to be rather interesting in a minute. Okay, so what we decided to do is, let's give you the backstory to this. We've got EMPS Empowering Survivors. Vix, how are you? Adam, how are you? We've got EMPS Empowering Survivors. June, how are you? Becky, how are you? We've got EMPS Empowering Survivors. Carrie, hello. It's like hello all around, isn't it? And EMPS is the starting blocks of what we do. It will be a page that we continue to grow, we continue to work on, and we continue to foster as a fantastic community. Talk and Thrive is our mental health group. And for a while we've been talking about how do we make Talk and Thrive have its own presence as well as having its group presence. So we've keep EMPS, that's great, but we got talking about the mental health work that we do. We feel it could take a more honest approach. We could have more honest discussions about it. I keep banging on about normalising mental health, and in order to normalise something you have to understand it. Claire, how are you? Tony, how are you? Nicola, how are you? So, in the interest of fair play, we're going to do videos that are a bit more near to the bone and a bit more cutting, should we say. So, in the interest of this, I feel I have to explain that some of what I will say could trigger somebody if they've been through any form of rape or sexual abuse, and I'm not going to beat around the bush there. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go into things in terms of the act itself, because I don't think that has any relevance at all to anything. It happened, it did what it did. Okay, so in order to understand my story, we have to go back to about 1993, I think it was. 93, 94, somewhere in that region. You see, what happens is when you go through something traumatic, or in my case this is what happened, your brain becomes a bit fragmented. So what you don't do is you don't really remember dates, and you can block time out, which is something that fortunately I learned how to do. I was able to block out an awful lot of what was going on over an awful long period of time, which was rather helpful. Pardon me. So, I don't want to name people who I was friends with at the time and I'm still friends with, because I've not spoken to them about whether I can use the names. So there we are. So there were a group of us who used to go out together, and one of us got a milk round job. And with that milk round came his own van. So for a while we used to use that van, and we'd go places on Saturdays and that sort of thing. And he started to say to us, oh, why don't we come out, as boss wants to, his boss buys drinks and stuff and all the time, and away we go, and that sort of thing. So I used to drink up at the Three Horses. My God, I didn't think this. I can feel my chest going about 100 miles an hour here. So we used to drink up at Three Horses, and the first time that I came in contact with Philip Longbottom was on a Thursday night. And I know it was a Thursday night because we'd go out drinking on a Thursday, and it was the place of choice was Three Horses. So that's why I would think that would be a Thursday night. Now, Matthew, how are you? So that night we were out, and we went up to, I don't know if anybody remembers the Three Horses at that stage. You go through the doors, the bar, and then you'd go up some steps, and there were a pool table or two. I can't remember if it was one or two pool tables, but there's definitely a pool table there. And we got introduced to Philip's families, you know, all that sort of business. And as we are playing pool, I got teamed with Philip, and we were playing, I can't remember who we were playing. It's just a couple of things stick in my head more than anything else. Betty, Sharon, Lindsay, how are you? So anyway, we're playing pool, and the pool cue's getting passed back and forwards. Something strange happened on the first time that I was playing with him, and it happened repeatedly. So as I'm handing the cue back, Philip's hand's touching my hand, but it's not sort of like a touch like that. It's almost like that. So at the time, I'm sat thinking, what have I just been a part of there? What's gone on? So I didn't say anything, and I asked somebody, did anybody else see that? And nobody else did. So I just didn't know whether or not I'd imagined it or whether or not it was in my head. So this happened that night. Over the next few weeks and few months, Philip became a part of social circle, in the sense that he would come out, we would get drunk, he would buy us beers, he would buy us curries. Now this is quite strange, isn't it? Because at that time, I'm thinking back to how that was. So we had a group of teenage lads with him, 16, 17, 18. They were a varied sort of age group. We'd hang around with people who were like 2 and 3 years older than us, you know. There might be one, so I could name names, but I don't want to name names. So there was one who was 2 years older than me, one who was a year older just by school year, and the rest were my age. Now I was a very, very young boy. I looked ridiculously young, and I could only drink in a few places. And I could only drink in a few places because my mates would hide me around the corner, and they would bring beer to me and things like that. And of course, I'd have the beer down on the floor, and I'd have the orange juice that I'd bought on the table, so people would keep coming and making sure I wasn't drinking, which was a complete and utter lie. I'd done that for ages. So anyway, it carries on going on, and Philip's in sort of integrating him into conversation more and more and more. Are you sure about sharing? Yeah, I am sure about sharing, Lindsay, because the aim of this, right, is if anybody is struggling at a later point in time and they've been through anything, they may see this video and they may see somebody who's come out of the other side, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing on this. So that's the thinking to that. I've spoke about this long and hard with Jim, and hi Jay. And we've spoke about this long and hard, and it's something we've thought, how do we do it? How do we get this out? And then with the page coming up, this is what we've decided to do. So, fast forward, I believe, and I only believe, it was a November, October time. I remember it, because I remember what I went through, I think, lasted 2 or 3 years, I think. And it started more or less when it was finished with, I remember just before it finished, and this is a while ago, this is a while ago, that What's the Story Morning Glory had been released, so that's towards the end of when it happened. So I went on, so to put it into a perspective, I was well and truly groomed, and it went on for a period of time. And you're going to hear this, so I'm going to apologise, because I'm going to flit back and forwards, because that's how my mind works. So anyway, one particular night, we'd been out, Robbo's, that's where we went, Robbo's, that were other place we used to go. We used to go to Robbo's because there were karaoke every Friday night, and I liked karaoke. I seriously loved karaoke. It was one of my favourite things ever. It was, still is, love to sing. I'm not very good at it, but Ben, people are, just to sort of say, it's, if people want to comment, if people want to join in or ask questions, I'm going to be speaking about them. I'm going to be quite open about this. This is what I've sort of done. This is me sort of saying goodbye to things as well. Well, actually, when I read this, that's saying goodbye to things. So anyway, there was a particular night when we went out to Robbo's. Then we went to the Sanam restaurant. Now, the strange thing about that night is I could always, even at a young age, I could start to hold alcohol a little bit better than what I should have been able to. It should have sort of told me that alcohol's not very good for me. So, we were in Sanam, and I felt myself at that night, I felt a bit drunk. I felt a bit worse than normal, and I couldn't put my finger on it at all. But during the course of that evening, the guys who I were with, they lived in one area, Philip lived in another area, and I lived in Riddlesden. So I'm getting particularly hammered, very hammered. And it were getting to a point where I couldn't speak, but I knew what were going on. So this is a really strange sort of experience. Now, if you ask me in revert, if you ask me now, I think I were drugged. But again, that's how it was. So anyway, Philip said, I'm going to give John a lift home, but I just need to go home and get something first. And I didn't think anything of it. That night, we went back to Philip's house. There was nobody else up. He lived at a place called Homehouse Farm. It was massive with that. Really, well and truly massive with Philip's house. I'd never seen anything like it. And he helped me into the front room. He poured me another drink. He positioned me on the floor, and what happened. So that was the first time that he did something to me. So I'm really confused at this point, because the next morning I'm waking up and I'm thinking, what happened? Because I'm a young kid. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know bodies reacted in a certain way. So to explain that really bluntly, if you are abused as a guy and the guy forces himself on you, your body reacts as you would expect it to react if you were enjoying the thing. So that's really, that's just a complete head mash, is that. From the word, that's just, I can't begin to explain how confusing that is. And it wasn't until I was 38 where a doctor told me what had gone on and how the body reacted. So I've spent over 20 years, not knowing whether or not I was gay. Was I having all sorts of stuff going on? The thoughts came into my head quite frequently, and had anybody have told me at a very young age that my body reacted in the way my body was supposed to react, I think a few things would have been different in my life. But you can't hang things on what went on in the past. You just can't. It's horrendous. It's done and dusted. I was, in his eyes, I was the right person in the right place. In my eyes, wrong person, wrong place. Can't do anything about it. I posted something recently on my own Facebook page, on Instagram, and I think I put it on the EMPS page as well, showing how young I looked at the age where things were happening. I was a very tiny child. I was very tiny. I was really small, much small. I got ID'd till I was 29. That should explain how small I was. So anyway, I wakes up, and over the weekend, he rings me, and this part is going to sound bizarre. He rings me, and he says he wants to apologise because things went further than he should have let them go. I was like, oh, and I was absolutely baffled. So, cut long story short, we arranged to meet on Tuesday night down at the bridge. Went down again. It was all a kind of a blur. I was drinking Southern Comfort with mixers, because I did used to like liquor. It would have been Southern Comfort and lemonade. I used to love that drink. Really did used to love that drink. And I don't know how many I had, but as the night went on, the same feeling started to happen that had happened on the Thursday just gone. On the way home, well, no, it didn't go on the way home. He said to me, do you want to come and see where I worked? And he had a factory, and he worked for a company called Ortex, I believe, and they had a factory on East Parade. So you're driving up East Parade, you know where, if you know Keighley at all, you're driving up East Parade, you've got Sainsbury's petrol station, you've got Curry House, and then you used to have a road down that there was some factory units. So he took me in there, and on that particular night, that's when it happened for the second time. Big difference this time. After he'd done what he'd done, he made it quite clear, explicitly clear, that if I didn't do what he said, there'd be consequences. And I kind of believe that, because I'm a boy, he's a grown man, and as he positioned it, who's going to be believed? Who's going to be believed? A respectable businessman who incidentally had sort of connections with the Sea Scouts. And Scouts, you see, it's not good, is it? And you've got me, a bit of a gobshit, to put it bluntly, at that time. Who's going to be believed? Well, I believed my abuser. I believed that I wouldn't be believed. So over the next 2 to 3 years, I were broken in so many ways. I mean, absolutely broken. I was just subservient to the point of I didn't know whether I was coming or going. He told me to turn up. So I want you to do the maths here over about 2 to 3 years. I'd have to turn up 5 nights a week, and I would be abused 5 times a night. So do the maths on that, and you can understand what I've been through. So anyway, a lot of the times I couldn't tell you what had gone on. A lot of the times I couldn't tell you because it all sort of blurs. There's certain situations that I do remember. I remember Philip role-playing with a Smith & Wesson gun. I say role-playing. There was one particular night where he thought it'd be a really good idea to have this, what he says was, an unloaded gun pressed against my head. And what are you going to do? So it is what it was. And he says, you do believe it wasn't loaded, don't you? And I goes, yeah. He says, go outside and fire it if you don't believe it. Well, I fired it, and it sent me about 15 foot back because it was actually loaded. That just mangled me. That was one of the most surreal moments I've ever experienced. It was just beyond me. It was kind of like, what's kind of what happened there? That is kind of one of the, so this is the sort of level of things that you are dealing with. Other things that you deal with, I got took to London one particular weekend. I maintain to this day that I was not meant to come back from that weekend. I maintain that. There was things that happened on that weekend which I will never ever go into, but the level of depravity, the level of my personal dignity it broke me, did that weekend, in more ways than I will ever let on. It was horrific. What I was forced to watch was horrific. What happened to me, that were horrific. And how I got home, I don't remember. I think because I got a train ticket, but we ended up driving down. I kept the train ticket, and I think I did a runner and got the train home. I've just completely blocked that out, and I've been for plenty of counselling to try and unblock that, and I'm not unblocking it for love of money. So I'm kind of guessing. So what's the story Morning Glory? Where does that come in? That comes in because that album had just been released, and I was sat up at I was house sitting for somebody, and I was sat, and I'd had enough at this point, and you get to a point where you start to think, I'm just, this isn't happening anymore. So I remember ringing him, and I just said, I'm not going through this anymore. I can't do anymore. And all he said, I think, in return was along the lines of, you know what will happen to you if you ever open your mouth. Which that was another implied threat. He was good at implied threats, that's for certain. So, how do I deal with that? Well, first thing that I do is, once that's done, I met somebody who I would eventually get engaged to. It didn't work out. A lot of my relationships haven't worked out over the years, and they haven't worked out because I've either had a drink problem, a drugs problem, or I'm not able to, or I have that many flashbacks that I'm kind of very, very insular. And I don't want to be close to people. And when I was in my younger years, I was accused of probably cheating, probably seeing anybody. And here's the truth: I didn't cheat. I didn't see anybody else. I was just a confused mess. And I've tried saying sorry to every single person who I was in a relationship with, because retrospectively, I don't think I should have been in a relationship. I should have sorted myself out. But you try and get through the best that you can, don't you, at the time? Or that's certainly how I tried. So we got to about 98, 99, and the engagement. She's an amazing woman, by the way. I've occasionally had one or two little bits of conversations. She's done amazing. She's got a lovely family. She's got a business. She's done brilliantly. But that finished, and that finished because I was just drinking far too much. I was a complete and utter mess, to say the least. And about that time, I probably realised that alcohol it was damaging me. I was having alcohol strokes at the time. I was working at a printer's, and I drunk myself that far into an oblivious state. I was starting to have reactions. So I remember losing the use of my left-hand side for a period of time. Now, I don't know how it came back. I don't know what caused it. Nobody sort of ever knew what it was. Once I'd started to open up about what I'd been through, I think there might have been some psychological element to it. But if anybody's going through anything, alcohol does not help under any circumstance. It just does not at all. But from alcohol, I discovered drugs. Boy, did I discover drugs. So I went from drinking myself stupid to discovering ecstasy one night in, I think it was 101, and I had a great time on ecstasy. What I was able to do with ecstasy, it was the first time that I was able to rationalise what I'd been through. And it was great, to be honest, because I was able to start writing songs and things. That's something, isn't it? That's how I learned to write songs, on ecstasy. Ecstasy and amphetamines, to be exact. It was a lovely cocktail. So for months, it was great. It was like I'd found a way to find some inner calm and some inner peace. And then the come down started. Now, for anybody who is unaware of what ecstasy and amphetamines do, they drive you to the point of despair when you are on the come down. They are horrendous. You might be up, and when I say up, when you're taking any sort of drugs, you peak and you come up and you're having a great time, and that might last 5 or 6 hours, and then, my God, you're not sleeping for about 4 days, and it is the worst 4 days of your life, and I mean atrocious. You can't eat, you can't sleep, you can't do anything, you're paranoid, you don't want anybody to see you. So I literally used to sleep underneath a radiator. I had this little flat in Riddlesden. I used to sleep under the radiator. I used to blue tack curtains so nobody could see underneath. I used to put bedding so people couldn't see through the letterbox. They couldn't see me in, and I just used to spend 4 days like that. I'd come round on about the Wednesday night, Thursday, and I'd start again on the Thursday. So that went on for quite a while. So it was going on. I was yeah, I was quite suicidal at this point. So that's 1999. That's the year of 9 suicide attempts. Last suicide attempt was 31st of December 1999. I've got some amazing things I missed. I'm one of the only people ever who will have slept through the eclipse because I was off my nut. I'd been in hospital for taking too much. It was the day of the eclipse. What did I do? I went home and I had 3 E's in a cupboard. I triple dropped and I slept through. My life was a complete and utter mess, and I was only wanting one thing to happen from it. And then, to my infinite wisdom, I discovered heroin. I discovered that on the worst come down in my life. Within 3 or 4 lines, my entire come down had gone, and I was amazed. That's the heroin side of things. Now, I'm not extolling the virtues of heroin. I'm not talking. It's atrocious. It's possibly the best and worst drug I have ever had. Had it not have been for that particular drug, I would more than likely have carried on trying to kill myself indefinitely until it would have happened. It was that drug that allowed me to start opening up about what I'd been through, and I was able to start my counselling journey. And my God, I've had some counselling journey. Really, I've had some counselling in my time. Psychotherapy. The first psychotherapist I was with was Sandra Robson, and she was amazing. She helped me no end. But over the years, it's kind of like destructive streak after destructive streak. So it was one thing after the other. It was, I would almost have cycles where I'd be all right. I'd stop everything. I'd start everything up. I'd get with a girl. It'd go okay. So what happens is, this is the flashback situation for you. So to begin with, when you're with somebody, your life is like this. You've got flashbacks, and they were happening between 30 and 50 times a day. And those flashbacks were all, you can imagine what they were, but mine were kind of physical. So I didn't just see them, I kind of felt them. I could smell situations. I could feel things. I could feel things happening to me. That's 30 to 50 times a day. So picture that as a level. So you meet somebody. To begin with, you are up there. So this is what happens. So to begin with, you're beating these flashbacks every step of the way because your adrenaline is way above anything that you could imagine. But as time goes on, that starts to happen, and the minute it gets under there, that's the end of a relationship, because the flashbacks take over and there is nothing that you can do. And that cycle went on, I would say, not very good at maths here, 22 years. 22 years that was going on. In between being a messed up fool, I somehow managed to get a job at my current employers, and I've been there 20 years. I've been there somehow 20 years, and I've managed to progress, which is kind of strange because it means I've got, my value system means I will work, that's my life, and then I've got outside of work, and that was a separate life. So I was never in a position where I was letting the drug addiction impact work, because you just can't do that. That's my own belief. Of course, there's people who can't do that, but my belief system is my belief system, and that is what I had to do. Now, I didn't earn a lot of money, but there was an awful lot of overtime. So I was doing 90 hours a month at one point, and I was doing 90 hours a month because I had habits I needed to sort of fund, to put it bluntly. And I'm not proud of any of it, but it was how I got through, and it was how I coped. There was a bit of a respite. I went to work in Ireland for a year in 2004 with these employers, and in that year, on the whole, flashbacks, this was really strange. So for that year, flashbacks were sort of there still, but for the majority of the year, it was kind of there. So I didn't really suffer the flashbacks that I had, and I never understood what that was. If I had to take a guess now, I would say it's because I knew he wasn't in Ireland. That is what I would honestly say. I would think it's because he wasn't in Ireland. Anyway, we get to 2006 and I meet my first and currently only wife, Magda. And we had 95% of the time, it was an amazing marriage. It really was. Until the flashbacks kicked in. And over a period of time, you just grow distant. Now, I'll never have a bad word said about Magda because she supported me like you would not believe for 12 years. An amazing woman. We still talk now. We were on really good terms. We split up in October 18. We got divorced August last year. She's met somebody. She's a mum. And she's really well suited to be a mum, and I couldn't be any happier for her, because that woman dragged me from being a guy who in 2006 was very close to really messing things up, and she dragged me through, and she sort of started to bring me to a position where I am right now, which is I'm quite comfortable and quite happy with. It's an amazing difference, isn't it, when you meet somebody and they invest in you like you invest in them. That is an amazing thing, and I'll forever be grateful of Magda. So, August the 5th, 2016, I come home from work and I'm sat here as it goes. I'm sat here and I put on my tablet and Telegraph and Argus says, Scoutmaster pleads guilty. And I'm sat there thinking, wouldn't that just be amazing if it was him? Press the page, Longbottom's face appears right up in front of me. And all I could say to Magda, it's him, Magda, that's him. I kept reading whatever articles I could get on. These articles, they give you the same information. Don't matter where you read it, but you're constantly reading it because it's like you don't believe one. And another one might tell you it's not true and so on and so forth, but it was true. The next day, that night I tried to ring because the paper had said if anybody else has been affected by this, get in touch. So I did get in touch, and that began the following day of me being in touch with my police liaison officer, and over the next 3 years I got to know him very well. I was interviewed the following Tuesday, and it took 3 years from submitting the case getting submitted, to him firstly saying not guilty, secondly saying no comment, and then on October the 2nd, the case got delayed indefinitely to March the 25th. I remember I was sat again here and I'd had a really horrific flashback that day because I knew court were going on. It was about 3 o'clock, and at 4 o'clock-ish, I got a phone call. I seem to remember him saying, where are you, what are you doing? And I just got told he'd pleaded guilty. And it just did not sink in. It eventually sank in. I put the phone down and I let out just a scream like I couldn't believe. It was like 26 years of hell had gone in that instant of him pleading guilty. And I mean gone. It was, I don't know if my neighbours heard, I don't know who heard what, but I just remember that being one of the best moments of my entire life. And I remember phoning round and speaking to my family and telling them what had happened, and it was kind of an end to a chapter for us all, wasn't it? Because for everything I've been through, they've seen me suffer. They've seen me for many years not understanding why I was a drug addict and this sort of thing. So this leads me to this. This is the statement that I read out on April the 3rd last year. And I don't now know if I want to read it. I'm just sort of reading it now. No, I am going to do. No, I am. Right, so this is in court, and you have a chance to read this. The original version was 15 pages, and it was, I got told I couldn't read 15 pages. So they would they would reduce it down to 2 for me. God love them. 2 pages. So, here's where it goes. So, the most annoying part of this was this. So I'm sat reading to him. So he's sat just further back, and the whole time he just had his head down, which I just found to be complete... I don't know, you just almost find it insulting that somebody doesn't look when you're being spoken to. That's how I felt. Okay, so to say I suffered harm as a result of these offences would be a significant understatement, and I think the damage needs to be looked at in 3 parts. Grooming, sexual abuse, trying to live as a survivor. As a young teenager, I lived a sheltered life, and whilst most of my mates were out on the streets on a weekend, I spent time sleeping at my gran and granddad's. By the time I started going out with my friends, I would have been 16 and very young in appearance and outlook. It wasn't long after I started going out visiting pubs with my friends that I was introduced to Philip Longbottom. And I remember the first time we shook hands, and his grip lingered, and I felt his fingers stroke my hand, and I wondered if I was imagining it. Over the weeks and months that followed, Philip would frequently join us, buy drinks, and take us for curries. It was only when I reached 37 years of age that I learned what was happening to me. At that stage was grooming. I remember in detail the first 2 offences he committed against me, and they've played over in my mind countless times over the years, and the embarrassment meant, quite simply, I was beyond ashamed, in particular the way my body reacted. He was forcing me to meet him several times a week and abusing me each time. I found what was happening so confusing, but I could not stop it, as he always told me I would not be believed, but finally have been. Trying to come to terms that I was a predator's toy is an ongoing trauma that I'm not sure will ever be behind me. The single biggest impact in being abused for such a long period is that I struggle to maintain physical intimacy, sometimes for years at a time. This is because I get an overwhelming feeling that the mental scars will cause a sense of panic and fear, which causes me to avoid intimacy in relationships. In my mind, it's better not to be in an intimate relationship than to have your partner witness you break down. In my adult life, I've had 5 serious relationships, one of which developed to marriage, but this has recently broken down between me reporting my abuse and the case getting to this point. I accepted that the marriage broke down as a result of my unreasonable behaviour, but this was as a result of prolonged and repeated sexual abuse. Flashbacks are something I experience on a very frequent basis, and even now at the age of 41, I break down in tears, vomit and have periods of no sleep. When I wake up, I go no longer than 30 seconds before I think about what he did to me. I feel worthless, pointless and a disgrace as a man, and above all, I think of the moment we met, and I wish I'd told him to stop when he shook and stroked my hand. I've self-harmed for much of my life, as it helped me deal with the anger and suffering this abuse caused. This, at various points, has progressed to a point where I simply thought about ending my life. I've inflicted very serious wounds on my arms in an attempt to end my life, and I've used tattoos to cover these up, as I can't bear to look at the scars. I'm glad I was not successful in ending my life, as I would not have been able to write this and let my attacker, my nightmare and the single most evil man I've ever met, know that I'm rebuilding and not letting his terrible crimes against me define me anymore. Since the abuse, I've used substances as a way of coping, and I estimate that I've spent, and I'm not going to mention the amount of money because it's phenomenal, I've spent a lot on these to help me block out the trauma of what Longbottom did to me. My addictions help me cope up to a point, but with this lifestyle, new chaos emerges, and these problems I attribute directly to Philip Longbottom. For 2 decades, I've managed to hold down a job despite my addiction problems, and I'm proud to have maintained my work ethic throughout. The lack of sleep due to flashbacks caused me to regularly slip into depression, and it's only with the help of mosaic that I've been able to survive. I would like to conclude by saying sorry to my previous fiancés, I was engaged a few times, and my wife, that I was unable to make them happy. And I hope they all find a love that I couldn't give, but I was being controlled by Philip Longbottom's past actions. Each new relationship starts with hope, but eventually descends into the shadow of sexual abuse memories. But it would be too easy to give up on life and to give up on me. I'm 41 now, and finally his conviction brings a new perspective. I've a resolve to never stop fighting for my life, a resolve to wake up each morning and live my life, and a resolve to make sure that Longbottom takes no more of my life. I believe this statement will allow me to get some form of closure. By this, I'll be able to say I'm no longer a victim, no longer will I carry guilt, no longer will I not be believed, and no longer will Philip Longbottom ruin my life. So that is what I was able to read on August the 3rd last year. So since then, it's quite true, is that? Because since then, I've been able to join EMPS. We have taken ourselves to do groups. We have gone from groups to doing online videos. We've been put in the media glare. We have received more coverage than we could have ever dared to imagine and ever thought we deserved to get. We do amazing things. We are survivors, and we're now supporting people. I'm using what experience I've got to help other people through. That's what drives me. That is who I am today. This is the 42-year-old version of me. That was written a year ago. It's uncomfortable to read that statement because it's still relevant, because I remember writing it. I just remember the whole thing. And at some point I will show the whole 15 pages. But here's the thing, had it not been for my marriage breaking down, and I've spoken with Magda about this, had my marriage not broken down, I wouldn't have joined EMPS, and I wouldn't have started Talk and Thrive, and I wouldn't be speaking now, and I wouldn't have waived anonymity. So whilst I'm so sad that broke down, as I'm sad that every relationship broke down, it broke down because I didn't know how to deal with what he had done to me. I didn't know how to put it into perspective what had happened, but now I do. And I can sit and talk about this quite calmly because I've made my peace with it. I've moved on. You don't move on from something, you move forward with something. And I'm able to say that he can't do anything else to hurt me anymore. He can't ruin the future. I don't know what the future is. All I know is that I've not had a flashback since March the 25th, 2019. I know I've been able to, I've had one small relationship since. It didn't work out. It just, there's no hard feelings. Things just don't work out. But it absolutely taught me that I was able to move on. And I was able to move forward in spite of everything that happened. So why have I done this tonight? Why have I gone and said this? Well, somewhere there's going to be another John Bailey out there who's struggling. And at some point, he or she may come across the work that we do. And some of what I say and some of what Jim says will resonate with people. And if it resonates with people, they might reach out to us. And if they reach out to us, there is just a chance that we stop them going through a cycle of alcohol, heroin, crack, amphetamines, speed, PCP, marijuana, and I kid you not with that list. I'm not proud of the drug past. It's the one thing I'm not proud of. What I am proud of is being able to pull myself through this. I'm proud that I'm able to be here today to do this. Do I get down still? Yeah, I do, because that's the nature of life. But one thing's for certain, tomorrow's a different day, isn't it? So we can have a bad day today. That's allowed. Tomorrow's a different day. And we have a better day then. Or that's what I think anyway. So, does anybody have any questions that they want to ask, or does anybody want to position out to me? Because I will literally right now answer anything that you want. Nicola, we are all proud of ourselves with what we do here. We've all been through something that is, it's just horrendous what we all went through, but we've all made it through the other side. We've come out the other side and we're doing what we do. So yeah, we are proud of ourselves. It took certainly me and Jim, my God, we struggled with it at first. When people were telling us we're doing amazing things, we didn't know what to do. We didn't know where to look. Because when you have been so long where you haven't really had a life and you've been a shell of a man, you don't know how to take you don't know how to take positive feedback. And because you don't know how to take positive feedback, anything constructive, anything positive, or anything that isn't negative, it's just like you look down at the floor. You don't know what to do with it. And over the last year, that's possibly the best thing that I've been able to do. To be able to say when somebody gives me good feedback, I'm able to now to say thank you and mean it, and not just say thank you to shut them up. I say thank you and I mean it, and that's an amazing thing, really is. So what's Matthew, how are you? What's Jay saying? Fantastic, mate. I'm no expert, but being able to read that out must be such a relief. Saying stuff out loud always helps. Yeah, it does. It does, Jay. It ate me up for years. It really did. Hard question. Obviously went to school together. It makes me sad. All I'll say, Nicola, is you get through things. For me, the issue happens afterwards. It's when you start to realise what's gone on that you start to have your problems. So to begin with, whilst you're just trying to cope with the situation at the time, let's say you're in a bad marriage or an unhappy relationship, you're trying just to cope with that until you can see a way through, and it's a similar thing to that. And I don't mean to be dismissive about being abused, but that's how I dealt with it. Ben, Talk and Thrive is the best thing I've ever done and been involved with. You guys are amazing, and you're amazing too, Ben, and we'd like to see you at some point. Can I ask a question, please? I'm interested to know, given your experience, what is your view of the justice process and system? What's my view of the justice system? Now, I think it's fantastic. I went to the police in 1999. I don't know if anybody saw any videos I posted in September last year. Basically, there was one last card that he played. I got asked would I get involved in something, and it turns out not only was I being abused, but photographs were taken, videos were taken, that sort of thing at me at the time. I went to the police in 99, and as the letter said, another four boys went to the police, and materials were withdrawn that related to a particular year. The only person being abused by him in that year was me, so it sort of meant that was me. So the police said, and the CPS, they didn't charge, so that was twice. They could have charged him twice before he got to me, but that didn't happen. What do I think now, based on what I've been through? When I went to the police in 2016, they dealt with my case impeccably. I've got to be very careful not to give any names because I know that they do watch these things. The whole team, the safeguarding unit, are amazing. They support you every step of the way. They speak to you in the lead up to the trial. They speak to you afterwards. You stay in touch with them. And I think now the justice system is a lot better. Now, here's the thing that people need to understand. When you go make a complaint to the police, it isn't enough for them to say, yeah, we're guilty, we're going to go get them arrested. It doesn't work like that because it has to go through the CPS. So what will happen is your statement will be read and will be watched again and again and again because it's done through a video statement. Now, they have to be sure of everything, and I believe a silk. So you've got solicitor, barrister, silk, and unless I'm mistaken, the silk has to sign off on every step of the process. And this is why it takes such a long time. But what I will absolutely say without a shadow of a doubt is it was the best decision that I made to go forward. It brought me peace. So what do I think of the police and the justice system now? I think that they do a good job. Things take the time, and they do take time, but you get the outcome, more importantly, the crime. What's the word I'm looking for here? So crime doesn't pay. So he's now serving a combined 61 years for 2 life sentences of what he did to boys. I believe there's like 65 counts over however many boys, plus I dare say there's more who he didn't do. So what's Jimmy said? I saw Jimmy say something there a bit ago. Does this mean I now have to share my story? If you want to share your story, mate, you share your story. Your call. Carrie wants to give me a hug. You can, hello, yeah, hug me if you want. We'll just wait till COVID's done, because I don't, social distancing and all. I totally understand the positive feedback bit. Took me a long time to accept positive things said to me. I did the same as you, looked down at the floor and felt uncomfortable. Oh my God, my eyes were trained at the floor. I would literally try and pretend I wasn't seeing. I remember somebody saying to me when I went back to work last year that there was a huge difference because I was now walking around the office with my head up, which was a seismic shift, really. Gemma, you're a survivor, John. You're extremely brave and strong. Inspiration to all, and should be so very proud of yourself. Keep smiling. I do try and keep smiling now. Could always be others that haven't come forward, which is another big point. Could be. I work with children who have suffered what we call toxic trauma, and it's comfort to know there are people in groups like you guys out there helping people. Here's the thing. If anybody's, because of the nature of these things, we can't support under 18s. If anybody, I would certainly help anybody signpost somebody to the right places, but we couldn't help because we don't have the training, we don't have the insurance, that sort of thing, which is a shame, really, but that's just how it is. So we're not jeopardising what we do. But anybody over the age of 18, I'll help them within an inch of my life, really. Amy, thank you for answering. I'm so pleased you and the others got the justice you deserve. Yeah, we did get the justice we deserve, finally. And what was really sad in my particular case, out of all of us who was there was only me who'd been able to hold any sort of life down. And it just made me realise how fortunate things are when you're able to hold a life down. It's a challenge. It really is a challenge. But we get through things, we really do. Will there be times where I think about what happened? Yeah. Difference is now I'm not having a flashback. I've got over that, and I'm able to live now. I'm able to live, and I'm able to be happy, and I'm able to smile, thankfully. And it's generally a smile that I'm just happy. It might seem strange that I'm smiling after what I've just spoke about, but I'm smiling because I'm here. I'm smiling because I made it through. Claire, Louise, hiya Kate. I work for NSPCC too and going to schools and bring awareness of abuse to children in the hope that it will help a child disclose or even understand that they are suffering abuse. Keep doing that, Claire Louise, because I maintain if we can get children or young adults to open up early enough, they've got a chance to avoid a life that I had. They have a chance to avoid addiction. They have a chance to avoid alcoholism. They have a chance to avoid self-harming, suicide attempts. We have a mantra. It's good to talk. We believe we should talk out because it'll inspire others to hopefully realise that they're not alone and they can speak out about this. I was years before I felt comfortable enough to speak out. My cousin's on here now. I'm not going to embarrass my cousin, but my cousin will remember how bad I was at one time and it was well known through the family, and nobody would have had a clue. And I don't think anybody really had a clue until the court case last year. But to come back from something and to be able to get the... it's a good thing being able to get the respect of your family back, the respect of your friends back, the respect of people who've known you for years. They suddenly understand why you were angry. They understood why at times you were awkward. Because when you're having between 30 and 50 flashbacks a day, believe you me, the last thing that you want to do is be at work, be with your friends, be anywhere other than in a quiet space. So there would have been times when I'm having flashbacks at work, somebody had have spoken to me and I'd have probably gone, what? Because I wouldn't have known where I was. And when you don't know where you are, it can cause all sorts of mayhem. It really can. Claire Louise, and living a life not telling others. I was 43 before I spoke out. 100% agree with you. 100% agree with you. I am so lucky that I got a second chance with life, and I'm so lucky that I get to be able to do this now. And when we come back out of lockdown, I'm considering, and Jim, I haven't had a chance to speak to you about this, pal, so I'm sorry for this. I'm thinking of doing a Talk and Thrive just for survivors. And I don't know if that's something that would interest people. I don't know if people would know people who would benefit from that. But I'm a great believer now of talking about things. I don't know, I'm only speaking sort of based on how I've dealt with things. But I absolutely think that we've got an opportunity now, and we've got an opportunity to change the course of how things can go, because abuse is never right. And it doesn't matter if it's sexual, it doesn't matter if it's physical, mental. Abuse leads to trauma, and trauma causes problems. So what I'm saying to people here is, if you are in any sort of abusive relationship, talk. Get out of that relationship, because I can tell you something, the person who is coercing you, who is bullying you, is just that, a bully. And when you call them on it, it ends. Absolutely ends. Because once the bully realises that they have no control over you, they can't bully you anymore. And I'm a great believer of that. I would support anybody through that sort of thing. My word, I have rambled on tonight. What time are we on here? We're on 10 o'clock, so I've been going for an hour. Well, that's amazing. Yeah. So, how's people found this? Was it a little bit... So with these more adult-based approaches, did it hit the target? Was it too much? How was it? Do we need to change our approach? Because ultimately we're trying to... What we're doing is a work in progress. Jim and I, we wing things. And tonight I've just winged it based on, this is what I think I should say. This is my story. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm telling. What did people think? I didn't want to go into details because I don't think it mattered. I don't think what happened on any particular night mattered. It happened, didn't it? You don't need to... Oh, people are talking to me. Let me just get these down out of the way. Oh, well, that's new. Sorry, people were talking to me there on Messenger, which is curious to say the least. So, how's people found it? So Laura, big hugs, John, talking about things helps more than anyone realises. Yep. Certainly does. So yeah, so for the last hour, that's the first time, Marie, how are you? That is the first time that I've really gone into things in a sort of controlled manner. And yeah, anybody, feedback? Jay, everything you've done was perfect, fella. Details don't matter. It's the feelings related to it that need to be spoken about. June, you've been a hero to people listening. You were you, and lead us into your life to understand it. Thank you, June. Paddy, how are you? The key is, ultimately, I can't let somebody destroy my life anymore. I can't let them define who I am anymore. You know, that's ultimately it. I think the way you handled the story amazingly well and spoke about everything in a very appropriate way. Thank you. Becky, it's nice to hear people go through similar feelings and we aren't just weird, if that makes sense. Yes. Gemma, you are brilliant. I think you did very well. Marie's not too bad, thank you. Yeah, it's difficult to speak about things, it really is. But if we don't speak about things... Susan's found this very helpful today, thank you. You're welcome, Susan. If we don't speak about things, if we shut away and if we don't open up to what we've been through, Sarah Jane, how are you? If we don't open up to what we've been through, how can we learn as a society? We can't. We need to be able to put an end to sexual abuse. We have to be able to do this without a shadow of a doubt. The way that we do it is it's wrong. It should never be accepted. It should never, ever be tolerated. If you know somebody who tells you that they are going through something, believe them. Believe them, because, yeah, that's it, Jimmy. Change the future or live the past, without a doubt. Amy, you're just a beautiful person. You are not what happened to you. You are kind and strong, and I'm proud to call you my friend. Thanks, Amy. And likewise, I'm proud to call you my friend too. Ben, you need to keep this. You need to keep up this. If you save one person from this sort of thing, then it's worth everything you all do. Carrie saying I did great. Yeah, it's how I feel. Anybody who knows me knows I am... I'm determined to try and make a difference. I'm determined to normalise the conversations about what's happened. Yeah, it doesn't make for comfortable listening, but as the years have gone on, I don't go into the lurid details of it. It's like Jay just mentioned, it's the thoughts, it's the feelings, it's everything else that goes with it. It's only a year since, it's just a year and a month since it came to a close, and I'm learning to be a man. I'm learning to be a man after 26 years of being a shell. And I've made mistakes in this year. I've made mistakes I didn't realise would happen. But I'm getting better at being a man. I'm getting better at being me. I'm getting better at being the man I should always have been. And it's happening, and it's a real transformative period for me. It's been unbelievable. I have ups, I have downs, but on the whole, things are going so well. But some things you just don't know how to deal with because you've never been able to experience things because what you were going through never allowed you to experience things. And that's the amazing thing about recovery. That's the amazing things about coming out the other side of things. You come out a better man. You come out, I can't begin to explain. It's just a brilliant time, you know. The last 12 months, there's been some beautiful ups, a couple of lows, but I'm learning all the time, and it's okay to learn, and it is okay to learn, because by learning, we better who we are. So I would rather spend time making the odd mistake, not saying the right thing from time to time, but you learn and you move on from things. Because one thing's for certain, I had 26 years of something that I had to move on from and move forward with. And I think I've managed it, and I think I'm doing it. And I'm with my partner at my side, Jimmy, we are taking this place, we are taking Talk and Thrive and EMPS, and we're going to keep growing because we've got a lot of people we need to support. We've got a lot of people who don't know they need our support yet. And we just want to do so much for our community. We want to do so much for people. We are we had a couple of guys who had something terrible happen. But we're still here today. Let's have a look here. Tony, talking about things, whatever it is can destroy you, but it's definitely better to talk about it and let it go. True. Ben, you are open and honest. That's the best thing about you. Thank you. It's getting it out that matters. I've done 90 minutes of therapy ever with Nigel. Nice bloke. It was one of the best 90 minutes of my life. He said about 5 words. Really great. Yeah, it's great when they don't speak, and it's, yeah. Nicola, for some people, opening up has to be a step at a time, gently and safely does it. Absolutely. Anybody who's going through something, you see, when you go through something, you get put with counsellors. Sometimes the counsellors who you're with, they don't match with you. So you've got to keep trying to go until you find a match. And when you find a match, magic happens. And that's when you start to let go of things. You start to release things. What's one of the worst effects of mine? I'm so insecure. For me, I am very insecure as a person. And it's kind of like the most frustrating thing in my life right now is I have to ask things 8, 9, 10 times just in case I get it into my head, they'll change their mind. So I'll ask that again. They'll change their mind, I'll ask that again. They'll change their mind, I'll ask that again. And it does my nutting. So that's what I'm going to be lurking. That's what I'm going to be working on over the next 12 months. It's just a big frustration, you know. But it's all born out of what I went through. So I kind of put up with it in a way. It's not ideal, is it? But it is what it is. Laura, what you're doing is amazing. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate that. And I just want to thank everybody who has taken the time to listen for the last hour or so. Tonight was always going to be a difficult night, and it's going to be a difficult... Insecure, wow, I come across anything but. You make insecure people feel better about themselves. No, Ben, I'm really insecure, mate. Really insecure. I've got a combination of OCD and I'm insecure, and that's just how it is, isn't it? When you go through something like I've been through, you'll never understand why you were chosen. So you put it down to this, that I was chosen because of how I look. So how I looked was appealing to a certain type of man. And that's something that your head never gets, it just doesn't get used to. It really doesn't. I'm getting better at not being as insecure, but I'm terrible, mate. I really am. I try and cover up as much of myself as possible. And it's great. I'll soon be able to wear a face mask as well. It'll be awesome. So I really will be. It's true, is this? But I am getting better. I try and do things. To challenge myself, to put myself in situations I'm not very happy with. Right now, I've got a hat on because I'm growing hair that's ginger, and I don't like it. I think they call it body dysmorphia, don't they, when you don't like how you look and you really can't stand it or stomach it. That's just how it is. Pete, so Gemma, sorry, I don't come across as insecure. I use positivity. Now, I can be positive about things, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily secure, and I wish I was. I wish I was better at what I wish I could be. I wish I could be more secure. It might happen, you know. Stranger things have happened. I never thought I'd hear him say guilty. So yeah, strange things have happened, and things could change. But just because I'm insecure doesn't mean it destroys my life. It just means I have to spend, like, if I'm going out of the house, instead of maybe just throwing clothes on, I've got to spend maybe a bit longer making sure a certain thing's covered. Can I see things? That sort of thing. So it's just that sort of thing. Ben, honestly, you all do such an amazing job with what you do. You put people at ease, make people feel good about themselves. I just miss the life and story of Sparkles. We miss Sparkles too. Hopefully he'll be back when we can get back to groups. Nothing wrong with being ginger. Gemma, I can't go grey, can I? I'm 43 in a month or two, and I haven't got a grey hair on my head. It's just ginger. This is what I mean. It's just I flag my own insecurities. I don't know why I do it. There's probably a reason why I do it. I just don't know why I do it. It's almost like I'm giving you permission to hone in on them, isn't it? But yeah, it's been really cathartic as this. Really cathartic for me. We're going to be doing more videos. We'll be talking about other things. What I aim to do now is I aim to put this part of my life to bed. I have put it to bed, but I've been asked quite a number of times, what did I go through and what happened afterwards? And it's connecting those dots. And that's what I've done. I've connected those dots for people. Posh water, Jim. Posh water. Claire Louise, I used to change 10-20 times every morning to be happy to leave the house, but I don't now. It can happen. It can happen. Believe me, I'm very comfortable with who I am. I just wished I looked a bit different sometimes. But it is what it is. So Gemma's husband is Ginger and he's in the same boat. Ginger is Lush. I'm not sure. It's not exactly the first question, innit? So which single girls there would like a ginger guy? Doesn't happen often, Gemma. Doesn't happen often. Anyway, look, I want to thank you for joining. I want to thank you for staying with me. This has been my story. This has been what happened to me. This has been my truth. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us over on this page. We'll be talking a lot more. When we've got subjects we want to tackle and we feel that we can't have an opinion on another page, we will come here and we'll have that opinion because it's the right thing to do. So I want to thank everybody again. Look after each other. Look after yourselves. Keep each other safe, hold each other tight. Sometimes bad things happen, but I hope I'm showing that sometimes you can get through bad things. And not only can you get through bad things, but you can start to make a success out of yourself. Father, how are you? I don't know whether you'd want to watch this backwards, Dad, because I go into full story of what happened. I don't go into details, but I just thought I'd kind of warn you on that one, Dad, that it goes on. But if you have a look at comments, you'll see that I've had a message stating I'm Batman and you're Robin. Oh, who said that? Who honestly put me as Robin? Are you... Since when were Batman bald? Really? Who on earth is calling you Batman? In all honesty, I'm Batman, I'm bald. Really? Somebody's calling you Batman. Brilliant. And I'm Robin, the effeminate one. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, I'm going to wish you all a farewell. If you know anybody who's... If somebody comes and says to you that they've been abused and they don't know what to do, point them to this video and just show them that is my dad, Jay. My dad also went to Lord's in replacing me in year 10, I think it was. If you know anybody who says that they've been abused, they don't know what to do, point them to this video, because there might be something that they see in what I've said or what Jim might say that resonates with them. Yeah, definitely, Dad, looking forward to it for sure, without a doubt. There might be something that resonates, and if it resonates, get them to get in touch, because we need to stop this epidemic. We really do. It's an atrocious epidemic. It keeps on happening. At some point, some of us have got to stand up and say enough's enough. And if we do that, maybe things can change. Thanks for joining me.